Okay, I'm Chris Walton. I'm a mindfulness teacher.
I'm Dan Conneely and I'm a meditation teacher.
So today we're going to look at the difference between Vedic or Transcending meditation and mindfulness. Big topic. I'm just thinking where to start.
Let's start with your experience.
Yeah.
First of all, of briefly learning transcendental meditation.
Yes.
And then switching to mindfulness.
Yeah, so I'd always been interested in meditation, but never been able to sort of do it, or not been taught how to do it. It was always a struggle to sit still. And then when I learnt TM, given a mantra, the first time I did it, I don't know whether it's transcendence or what, but I just disappeared into light, really, and time disappeared. And I'd never had anything like that before. So that was it gave me a real big experience of this sort of restful place, of not doing, a place of not having to do all the time. So yeah, it was really big for me. And then I ended up a while later moving to mindfulness. For me, I had my own things going on. I was going to therapy and needed to come out of my head and into the body. I was a bit detached from how I was feeling in the body. So for me, the TM mantra-based thing felt quite a head place. Using the mantra here in your head, that kind of thing felt quite a head place. So I moved to sort of grounding and mindfulness, and yeah, I've been with mindfulness since, really. I'm enjoying exploring the feelings, the body, the thoughts, and how they interact with my patterns in life. But yeah, still sometimes practice with my mantra, So
the way that you were describing mindfulness there was a lot of active words that you were talking about.
Yeah.
Experiencing and with the body and working out, all these activating words. That's one of the key differences, I think.
Okay.
Between mindfulness and any form of transcending meditation is that mindfulness has a layer of activity and engagement required to have that experience in the present moment. So is that what you enjoy? There's something to do and maintain?
Well, I think we need to unpack this because it's interesting, because I kind of see mantra-based as active.
Okay.
As in, with a mantra-based thing, you're kind of using the mantra. So it's like a doing energy to that, in a way. I know you kind of get to a place where that's not necessarily needed or might fall away. And with mindfulness, it's being aware without changing anything. So yeah, this could be really interesting, how we see it in these different ways. But it's quite interesting that. So tell me a bit about what you mean by actively, what's active in mindfulness. Do you mean like how you connect with and observe? Yeah.
Monitoring, labeling, observing, tracking, noticing.
Yeah.
There's a purpose to the activity in mindfulness that when I teach and when I meditate in my own practice is not there.
Okay.
So to me, Vedic meditation, transcendental forms of meditation are deactivating. Mindfulness is activating.
Okay.
Based on the efforts required.
Yeah, that's true. There is labeling can be used. That tends to be used like with beginners or when the mind's busy or the stress, there's a lot of stress. So we would label what we notice, like hear. I can hear a sound in the distance, or see when an image comes up on the mind, as I see, and the labeling slows it down. That we do end up not using the labeling and just sort of noting what we see and what we hear, for example. And in fact, there is all the way to doing nothing, where it's actually stepping back from even controlling where we're observing. So there is elements of mindfulness where you are not even controlling what you're looking at, and you're kind of observing the observer move around in the present moment.
What we're looking at then is, and this is, I'm going to pass over to you in a minute, this is transcendental forms of meditation are very, very simple. And there's not a lot of nuance to them, really. It's a very simple technique. Now, simple doesn't always mean easy. It's a very simple technique. Mindfulness is a whole field of variation and different levels of understanding as to what it is and isn't. And different styles of mindfulness that fall under different umbrellas. Is it focused attention? Is it open monitoring? Is it, a more active form of, I'm going to inverted commas, meditation, walking around or doing activities whilst meditating or being mindful? So the umbrella of mindfulness, how would you describe that to someone if they'd never come across that before?
So I'd classify mindfulness as learning how to experience the present moment, experience life with as clear a mind as possible. So the mind is not adding filters to what you're seeing and feeling. The mind might add a filter on that when you have a certain feeling, you have a certain thought or a certain action. Would have a pattern. The mind would see the world that way. So with mindfulness, you can clear that filter and you can see things as they really are. Maybe that was just a feeling, and that feeling was made up of just some energy flowing around, and everything's always flowing around. So that's how I define it, really. Clearing the filter from the mind. The mind is seen clearly.
Nice. And operating from your baseline, I guess.
Yeah. So for some people, it might just be they want to step away from thoughts. So that mindfulness is great for that. You can just realize you don't have to get entangled in your thoughts. For some people, they might have emotions that they want to deal with. They can find a way of not being entangled in them. And if you want to go the whole way, you can be in that way where you're operating from an automatic kind of place, the charmed place that we talked about on the other video, really stepping back and letting things flow and finding an ease in that.
So let's go into thoughts, because that's really interesting, because there's both mindfulness and transcendental meditations. The way that thoughts are navigated when you close your eyes with any practice, that's really a big differentiator between the two, regardless of effort. In self-transcending forms of meditation, thoughts are very much part of the process, in the same way that I guess they are in some mindfulness practices as well, which is a huge relief to some people who think that meditation and mindfulness is all about clearing your mind, and if you don't clear your mind, you can't meditate. So understanding that thoughts are very much part of the process. What do I do when I close my eyes and I'm meant to be meditating and I experience thoughts? That's where a slight differentiator may come in, because with a mantra, you can bring your awareness and your attention gently back to the mantra. So you're almost allowing your mind to roam free, no engagement with the thoughts whatsoever, but recognition that I am thinking, and then you pull your awareness back to the mantra, and then your mind will wander again, and you'll recognize that as a thought, emotion, sensation, feeling, and pull the mind back. So every time the mind wanders, you bring it back to the pulsation of a mantra without labeling or engaging or noticing or turning it into some sort of visual where you're watching it go by and you're changing a relationship with it deliberately. You're almost totally carefree, allowing them to come and just almost diverting your attention away from them. And that's a necessary part of meditation. The meditating is the returning rather than the repetition of the mantra. And that's different to how mindfulness works. Very subtly.
Although mindfulness is such a broad collection of practices. I mean, a very popular one is following the breath. So you keep putting your awareness on the breath. And it's as similar to the mantra. You keep putting your awareness on the breath. You have a thought and you gently put it back to the breath. And you're developing this concentration that's not getting tangled in the thoughts. In the mantra-based one, that's what I saw as active, because you are kind of repeating the mantra, at least in the beginning. And so it's quite similar in the way. There's similar kind of concentration. But the idea when you're following the breath is to step back from those thoughts or step back from wanting anything to be different. So you're just watching the breath go in and out, as if that's a sound almost, but it's a feeling that's, you're just following that and doing nothing. So yeah, so I think they're kind of similar in that way. There is a way with mindfulness being such a broad selection of tools, depending on how you look. When you're beginning, you might look for sounds or the breath. Or when you're a bit more advanced, you might be looking for flow or movement that's just happening automatically. There's so many different things you can be observing. Now, is it active to be looking for a certain thing to narrow that down? So yeah, maybe on some level there is an activeness. There is a filtering that goes on. And this is the bit that I find really interesting is, like, let's say you're just watching movement in the body. In Unified Mindfulness, we have an exercise which is following auto movement that just sort of happens in the body, corrections to the balance, the breath. If you're just looking for that, you'll notice movement in the breath. If we're doing the other exercise that we have, which is called flow, you'll notice flow, but it'll be slightly different. So what you look for will change what you experience, and that's part of mindfulness. That's learning about the mind there. In certain techniques, like the do nothing, for example, you will end up a place where you're not using a lens, but maybe some of the ways that you've brought in all your practices will be there. There'll be the flow, there'll be the auto move, because you're aware of it now. You'll see it, you'll notice it. But it's a really interesting, nuanced conversation.
Yeah, I think so. When you're talking about TM that you were learning, the whole key around that practice is based around effortlessness. So whereas you're describing and using words like concentrate or follow or control, notice, we're encouraged not to do that.
Yeah.
Because that's activating the mind. Now, if you're gently activating the mind, then you're going to remain on the surface level of thinking rather than dropping down the layers towards no thing. And that's one of the big differentiators, is when you practice, can you meditate with complete effortlessness or moving towards effortlessness rather than anything that requires effort. So effort would be monitoring, control, focus, labeling, following. This idea of complete ease and effortlessness, how effortless can I be? How easily can I approach everything that's happening in my experience, and how allowing can I be for that experience to unfold in front of me, while having this gentle technique that just keeps returning to this vibrational quality of the mantra. So it's that attitude rather than technique, I think, where effortlessness comes in, and that rids the need to achieve anything or go into it with a goal.
But I think this is where the nuance is, because with mindfulness, there is that effortlessness of experiencing everything as it is. When you start out, there will be some effort it might take a bit of effort. And that's what, when in Unified Mindfulness, they call it concentration. Maybe that word's a bit problematic for some people. Because it's not that type of concentration where you are changing anything. It is a concentration where you can just witness something as it is without any grasping or pushing away. And it's interesting though.
It's really interesting. It's really interesting. And when I teach my method of meditation, the deep dive method, to come out of meditation from a transcending form of meditation, I integrate mindfulness as a way to come out of a deep meditation by noticing gratitude that's within the body. recognizing what's already there rather than pulling something in that you think you're grateful for or feel appreciation for.
Yeah.
You just take a moment, a couple of minutes, just to feel and notice in the body what comes up when you think, what am I grateful for? And that inner recognition is what you're talking about, those nuanced and subtle ways of experiencing what's in the body.
Yeah.
We can all feel our heartbeat and our breath when the room's quiet, but with continued meditation and continued inner work, how subtle can I feel? And you spoke about that flow that you can get to grips with and get to feel and understand with a mindfulness practice. Can I feel the flow, that subtle sensations within the body where something's letting me know that something is there.
Yeah.
And that's a really nice way to integrate back into the day, because it's that training element as well that you mentioned, which is so important in both forms of meditation.
Yeah.
Can I cultivate and train my brain and my mind to behave in more progressive ways, which is a huge part of the benefits that people see long term.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I think with both practices, it kind of cleans itself in a way when you do the practice. Like with the mantra-based one, I'll let you talk about that a bit, but definitely visiting that place twice a day or often, it will bring in that kind of place where the mind can rearrange itself, let go of some stresses. With mindfulness, visiting that place of not needing to change anything, and it's kind of like clearing that filter, like I was saying, filter from the mind, and the grasping and the pushing away of stuff, or the associations that we've put with the feelings and thoughts and situations just kind of dissolve. There's a kind of automaticness to it, a naturalness, where you're seeing things as they truly are, without all the attachments from the past or worries attached to things. But yeah, so you kind of set yourself up, but then it kind of, some of it does it itself.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
By visiting that place.
Yeah. So my meditation is based on the principle that stress is the major root of all health conditions, whether that's physical or mental, either causing or worsening those conditions.
Yeah.
So if the source of the problem is physiological, then the solution must be physiological as well, rather than psychological. So rather than willing stress away or trying to ease stress of whatever form it's showing up in life with the mind, that the solution is to work with the body.
Yeah.
And you work with the body by allowing the body to rest, because when the body rests, it begins to unwind stress. Wherever the body feels there is necessary stress to release, it will go to that place and release that stress.
Yep.
If it's allowed to rest, then we don't often allow our bodies to rest in day-to-day life because we're so overstimulated all the time.
Yeah.
And resting the body is not achieved through effort. It's achieved by being effortless. That's what allows, mental deactivation, physical deactivation, and that's what mantra meditation allows you to do, is to reach those levels of rest where the body can repair and unwind the stress physiologically. That's the difference, is that allowing, that acceptance of I don't need to do anything, because if I allow my body to rest, my body will do the work for me. Let nature take over, in essence. And I'm just going to hands free and just allow the process to unfold.
Yeah.
And that will unwind stress in the body, unwind stress in the mind. And I can open my eyes after meditation and I can crack on with my day, knowing that I've dumped some stress out of the system.
Yeah.
And I'm ready and good to go for the next part of the day. So it's that pit stop.
Yeah.
That pit stop in the day. That's how I feel my meditation works for me.
I've seen it called a spa for the mind.
Okay.
I think that's a good phrase. But the mantra-based meditation style, there is a simplicity to it. I know it can be as complicated as you want it. Any of meditations can go into really deep places, but I love the simplicity of it. And I think you've highlighted some of that. You just go ahead with the mantra, and it's the effortlessness, and you use it in your day a couple of times a day, and that is your practice. and it allows you to be effective, and it brings loads of benefits. With mindfulness, or the way I practice mindfulness, it kind of comes into the day more.
Okay.
And it can come into how you see yourself and reality in a way. I mean, all meditations probably lead to the same place if you do enough. So with your mantra-based meditation, is there instructions to kind of bring that into the day? In mindfulness, we have a few different little techniques to bring the mindfulness into the day. That's a really important thing, is to bring that certain clarity of mind into your day.
Being mindful with a mantra-based meditation, for me, is mantra-based meditations and self-transcending forms of meditation make you become more mindful as an outcome of having a consistent meditation practice, rather than being a purposeful process.
Okay.
So with mindfulness, rather than in the moment, being mindful, reminding yourself to stay present, doing these techniques that you're learning, that becomes automatic as a result of the body having less stress in it through dumping stress out during meditation. Because with less stress, we can think more clearly, we can be more present, we can feel more available, we can act less from fear and less rumination, which automatically enables us to feel and act more in the present moment, because we're not acting on maybe older habit patterns where we were stuck in the past, or moving into the future. So being mindful is probably a term I prefer more than mindfulness, because that's quite a loaded term. Present moment awareness I prefer even more. So having present moment awareness, being mindful, becomes something that you become rather than something that you continually try and do, if that makes sense.
That does make sense. And I definitely have, from experiencing TM, going to a place of stillness, connecting with that clear mind, it did kind of naturally bring into my day. It did come into my day. So I didn't just experience it in the practice, it very much came into my day. It was like having a clear mind, resetting the mind in a way. I mean, with mindfulness, you can use it to whatever level you want. You could just have your practice, use it in a similar way where it's a kind of meeting stillness, developing this well of stillness, getting to know what is going on in the present moment, and coming out of that feeling quite relaxed and clear-headed. But you can also use it for going a bit deeper, where you might have certain patterns in life that you want to work with. So you bring that mindfulness into those touch points in your day where there's stress. So I will say mindfulness is such a broad church of things. But it is an interesting difference there. So to finish, when you look at like Vedic meditators, I know lots of transcendental meditators, TM meditators are famous. There's loads of celebrities, isn't there?
Yeah.
And people that have quite a big output are quite productive with life. And then when I think of mindfulness, people that practice mindfulness, they perhaps more have a foot in the Buddhist kind of way of life. And I mean, they can be prolific with what they output, but it feels different. I don't know if this resonates for you.
Yeah. I've never really thought about it before. I suppose there's a generalization that mindfulness inward, transcendental forms of meditation outward.
Okay.
Maybe because when you meditate with a self-transcending meditation technique, you're turning on and engaging your alpha brainwaves, which leads to a state that is now commonly known as restful alertness. And it's quite energizing because you dump this stress out of your body and get a wave of energy after you've meditated, which is why if you do a mantra-based meditation before bed, you often don't sleep, because you're wide awake, which is why it's great in the morning and in the afternoon. So I can see how that is associated with people who get stuff done, because the associations are less stress, more energy, and that will enable me to be more productive. So I can see how what you're saying is true given that mindfulness has the connotations with the more monastic practices and
Yeah.
the longer periods of silence and
Yeah.
vipassana retreats.
Yeah.
So I can see how that works.
Yeah.
What's your take on it? We're really generalizing here, but
there is a part of mindfulness which is the sort of Buddhist end, where there's a lot of inward think about how the self works, how the nature of reality works. It's you can take it quite far, but there is also a type of mindfulness where it is more accessible, or you don't have to go to that far place of looking at the nature of reality. But I'm not totally sure. Maybe it all leads in that direction, and mindfulness attracts certain people. It's quite an interesting concept.
I think it does. You've got the apps like Headspace and Calm and Insight Timer. The majority of those are mindfulness-based meditations, whether it's focused attention or open monitoring. Most people who download Headspace, I wouldn't have thought they want to know what the nature of reality is and go straight into non-dualism. That said, when you learn a mantra-based meditation and you've got a teacher who's probably trained in one of the traditions in India, and they've got quite a good standing in Indian philosophy and Vedanta and where this beautiful modality comes from, then it piques your curiosity, because whether it's mantra-based meditation or mindfulness, getting in touch with yourself often makes you ask questions that you've not asked of yourself before. So whatever your entry point into asking those internal questions is, I think it eventually all leads to the same place that involves the journey of discovery as well. So wonderful modalities to get involved in.